The axolotl. If you've seen this animal and not immediately felt something shift in your chest, you may want to check your pulse. The axolotl is a salamander, native to a single lake system in Mexico City, and it looks like something a child drew when asked to imagine a friendly underwater dragon. It has feathery external gills that fan out from its head like a crown, a permanent smile built into the structure of its face, and small, clumsy limbs that make it look perpetually surprised to have a body. It is, by almost any measure, one of the most visually charming vertebrates on the planet. It is also one of the most biologically extraordinary. The axolotl practices neoteny, meaning it reaches full sexual maturity while retaining its larval form. Most salamanders eventually metamorphose. They lose their gills, develop adult features, and move on to land. The axolotl never does. It stays juvenile forever, breeding and living its entire life in the water in a body that looks like it should still be growing up. But the truly astonishing part is what it can do with that body. Axolotls can regenerate, not in the vague, slow way humans heal cuts. They regenerate entire limbs. They regenerate portions of their hearts. They can regrow sections of their spinal cord. Scientists have observed axolotls regrowing parts of their brains. You've got a version of the same regenerative genes. Yours just aren't working anywhere near as well. The wild axolotl lives only in Lake Xochimilco, a remnant canal system on the southern edge of Mexico City, a megalopolis of 22 million people. The water is heavily polluted. Invasive tilapia and carp, introduced for food production, eat axolotl eggs and juveniles. Urban expansion has shrunk the lake system to a fraction of its original size. Wild population estimates have dropped so low that some surveys in recent years found almost none at all. The animal that can regrow its own brain cannot survive what we've done to its water. There's a specific cruelty in that. Something capable of biological feats that would revolutionize human medicine is disappearing in a drainage ditch on the edge of a city, and most people only know it as a cute thing they've seen in a meme. The kakapo. This bird exists in a category of its own, which is part of why it's in so much trouble. The kakapo is a parrot. It is also the world's heaviest parrot, the only flightless parrot, and one of the longest-lived birds on the planet, with individuals reaching 90 years or more. It is nocturnal, it is enormous, reaching up to 4 kilograms, which is roughly the weight of a small house cat wearing a parrot costume. It has a face that looks like it's perpetually experiencing mild, pleasant confusion. When it encounters something unfamiliar, including humans, it often climbs onto them. Wildlife photographer Mark Carwardine became briefly famous for footage of a kakapo attempting to mate with his head during a filming expedition. The bird is, in the most technical sense, adorable in a way that borders on absurd. The kakapo evolved in New Zealand in complete isolation from mammalian predators. There were no land mammals in New Zealand for millions of years, only birds and reptiles. So the kakapo evolved accordingly. It lost the ability to fly because flight costs enormous amounts of energy and there was nothing to fly away from. It developed a strong, musty, sweet smell, described by people who've encountered it as something between honey and flowers, because smell-based camouflage wasn't necessary when nothing was hunting you by nose. It became slow-moving, ground-dwelling, and completely trusting of anything that approached it. Then humans arrived, and then rats, stoats, and cats arrived with them, and the kakapo had no behavioral framework for any of it. It had evolved perfectly for a world that no longer exists. By the 1990s, the kakapo population had collapsed to fewer than 50 individuals. Intensive conservation intervention, moving every surviving bird to predator-free offshore islands, monitoring each one individually, supplementing their diet during breeding years, has slowly pushed the number back up. As of recent counts, there are around 250 kakapos alive. Every single one has a name. Every single one is monitored. The species exists now only because of round-the-clock human intervention, which is either a conservation success story or a portrait of how close we came to losing it entirely, depending on how you want to look at it. The red panda, not a bear, not a raccoon, though it's more closely related to raccoons than to giant pandas. The red panda is its own thing, the sole living member of its own taxonomic family, Ailuridae, and it has been confusing scientists about its classification for longer than the giant panda has been widely known in the West. It is roughly the size of a house cat, covered in reddish-brown fur with a ringed tail, a white-lined face, and round, dark eyes that have made it one of the most recognizable animals in conservation campaigns globally. It moves slowly through the forest canopy of the eastern Himalayas and southwestern China, eating bamboo, occasionally sleeping in tree hollows, and looking at all times like something designed specifically to be printed on a tote bag. What most people don't know is that the red panda has a false thumb. The same adaptation the giant panda is famous for, a modified wrist bone that acts as an opposable thumb for gripping bamboo, the red panda evolved independently in a completely separate lineage. Two different animals, separated by tens of millions of years of evolution, arrived at the same structural solution to the same problem. That's convergent evolution working in real time, and it's genuinely remarkable. The red panda got there first. The fossil record suggests its lineage is far older. There are estimated to be fewer than 10,000 red pandas left in the wild. Deforestation across its Himalayan range, fragmentation of forest corridors that prevent populations from interbreeding, poaching for the illegal pet trade, and climate change shifting bamboo availability are all contributing. The red panda is listed as endangered. It has been a conservation mascot for decades. It is one of the most recognizable endangered animals in the world, and it is still declining. If you're finding these animals as quietly devastating as I am, I post content like this regularly, and subscribing genuinely helps. Thanks. The Pygmy three-toed sloth. There is a small island off the Caribbean coast of Panama called Isla Escudo de Veraguas. It is roughly 4.3 square kilometers. It has been isolated from the mainland for approximately 9,000 years, since rising sea levels cut it off at the end of the last ice age. And on that island lives a sloth found nowhere else on Earth. The pygmy three-toed sloth is a dwarf version of the brown-throated three-toed sloth, about 40% smaller than its mainland relatives, a result of insular dwarfism, the biological tendency for large animals isolated on islands to shrink over generations when resources are limited. It moves through the red mangrove forests at the edge of the island at the pace that sloths are known for, which is to say extremely slowly, hanging from branches with curved claws, eating mangrove leaves, and occasionally being photographed with an expression that looks, unmistakably, like a smile. The face structure of the three-toed sloth produces a permanent upward curve at the corners of the mouth. It looks happy, regardless of circumstance. It looks happy while the island it depends on is being degraded around it. The total population is unknown, but surveys have estimated it in the hundreds, possibly fewer. The island has no legal protected status that is consistently enforced. Fishermen visit regularly. The mangrove habitat is under pressure. This animal exists in one place in a tiny area with no backup population, and almost no one outside of conservation circles knows it exists at all. The vaquita. There are fewer than 10 vaquitas left on Earth. Read that again, fewer than 10. The vaquita is the world's smallest cetacean, a small porpoise reaching about 1.5 meters in length, found only in the northern Gulf of California and Mexico. It has distinctive dark rings around its eyes and dark patches on its lips that give its face an almost cartoonish, doe-eyed expression. It is shy, rarely surfaces for long, and was not even formally described by science until 1958. By the time scientists fully understood what it was already in trouble. The vaquita doesn't die because anyone is hunting it. It dies because of gill nets set for totoaba fish, whose swim bladders are smuggled to China for use in traditional medicine, where they sell for tens of thousands of dollars per kilogram. The vaquita gets tangled in these nets and drowns. That's it. That's the entire mechanism of extinction. An illegal black market for a fish bladder is erasing the smallest porpoise in the world. The Mexican government has attempted bans on gillnet fishing in the vaquita's range. Enforcement has been inconsistent. Criminal networks have continued operating. The population, which was estimated at around 600 in the 1990s, has collapsed to the point where a single bad year could mean the end. There are almost certainly fewer individuals left than there are people watching this video right now. The Vaquita is not going extinct in some distant future. It is going extinct now, in real time, in a body of water you can find on any map. The sand cat. The sand cat looks like someone took a domestic cat and made it slightly more compact, gave it slightly larger ears, and then placed it in the Sahara, the Arabian Peninsula, and the deserts of Central Asia, and said, "Figure it out. It weighs between 1.5 and 3.5 kilograms. Its paws are covered in dense fur that insulates against burning sand and leaves almost no tracks. Its ears are set low and wide on its head, giving it an appearance of permanent wide-eyed attentiveness that most people describe as unbearably cute. It can survive in temperatures that swing from below freezing at night to over 40 degrees Celsius during the day, in terrain with almost no standing water, obtaining most of its moisture from prey. It is one of the most environmentally resilient small cats on the planet. It is also one of the least studied. Sand cats are notoriously difficult to observe in the wild. They move at night, leave minimal tracks, and occupy some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. Population estimates are rough at best. What is known is that habitat degradation, human settlement expanding into desert margins, off-road vehicle use disrupting denning sites, and the illegal pet trade are all applying pressure. Sand cat kittens are sometimes captured for sale because they look when young almost indistinguishable from domestic kittens. They are not domestic kittens. They are wild animals that do not habituate to captivity well, and the demand for them as pets is directly removing individuals from wild populations that can't afford the loss. The Margay. The Margay is a small wild cat of Central and South America, and it has one of the most unusual hunting adaptations of any felid on the planet. It is roughly the size of a large domestic cat, spotted like a leopard in miniature, with enormous eyes proportionally larger than almost any other cat its size. Those eyes are adapted for low-light hunting in the forest canopy. The Margay doesn't just climb trees, it lives in them. It can rotate its hind ankles 180 degrees, the same adaptation seen in squirrels and some primates, allowing it to run headfirst down vertical tree trunks and hang from branches by a single hind foot. It is the only cat species known to be capable of this. It hunts in the canopy, sleeping there, moving through the upper forest layers with a fluidity that most cats never achieve on the ground. Here's the part that makes the Margay genuinely strange. Researchers have documented Margays producing vocalizations that mimic the calls of pied tamarin monkeys, specifically the calls of tamarin infants in distress. They do this to lure adult tamarins into range. It's predatory mimicry, and it's been observed directly in the field. The Margay is not just a beautiful cat moving through a beautiful forest. It is a sophisticated acoustic predator that understands, on some level, what sounds will make prey come to it. Margays are threatened by deforestation across their range. They are obligate forest animals. Unlike some cats that can adapt to fragmented or degraded habitat, the Margay requires intact forest canopy. As the Amazon and Central American forests are cleared, the Margay loses not just cover, but the three-dimensional world it evolved to navigate. It is listed as near threatened, which is the category just before things get officially worse. Population trends are downward. Every animal on this list is endangered or critically endangered or functionally extinct in the wild. Every one of them is also, by any reasonable measure, beautiful, and the uncomfortable truth is that their beauty has not been enough. Conservation funding disproportionately flows toward animals humans find visually appealing, a phenomenon researchers have actually studied and named, the charismatic megafauna effect. And even with that advantage, even with the calendars and the tote bags and the documentaries, these animals are still losing. The axolotl is disappearing in polluted canals. The vaquita is being drowned in illegal nets. The Kakapo survived only because every remaining individual was physically relocated to a safer island by hand. Cuteness turns out to be a terrible conservation strategy. What works is enforcement, funding, habitat protection, and political will, none of which are generated by how much something resembles a stuffed animal. These animals have been here far longer than we have. The red panda's lineage stretches back millions of years. The axolotl's ancestors predate the dinosaurs' extinction. They survived ice ages and mass extinctions and continental drift. They did not survive us finding their habitat useful for something else. That's the part that's hard to sit with. If that's the kind of thing that makes your brain short-circuit a little, consider subscribing. I post content like this regularly. Thanks for watching.